Good morning. Okay, first thing, like always, you're going to make sure that I am live inside the group. Let me know if you can hear me and see me. I'm also going to check on my end in just a second. This is the podcasting mini course. This is day 4, so we are wrapping everything up. We are going to do a recap of day 1, 2, and 3 really quickly at the beginning, but this is day 4 where we're putting all of it together, where we're asking all the questions that we have asked over the last few days and putting it all together for your description. So let me know if you can see me and hear me. My name is Jakara Davis, and I didn't mention this yesterday, so I'm going to make sure that I'm going to mention it at the top today as well. There is a Brainstorm Your Podcast guide that goes really well with this podcasting mini course. So if you want to download it, I'm about to put it in the comments right now. And this is just something that helped me to not only create my first podcast, Let's Try Adulting, but also my second one, See Own It. And so the second one around, I decided to document it, and it's there in the comments. And I'm actually doing another one for Biz Beastie. So this is a group of solopreneurs that I'm with, that we're having a retreat in October, that we're putting a podcast together, and I'm putting theirs together. And this will be the same podcast, the Brainstorm Your Podcast guide, that I will be using the same way. So we have most of our information, put it all together, and throughout this podcasting mini course, this is basically the same process that I would use for setting up that podcast as well. So I think I'm babble enough. If you have notes, whichever way you take notes, or if you want to put them down in the comments, we're going to get started with our podcasting mini course day 4. Good morning. My name is Jakara Davis. We're going to cover days 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to put it all together with those questions, because you need to have those questions answered before we can continue with today, day 4, where we're putting it all together for your description. And we're going to get to that later, but your description can be used for in your show notes. That's what I have in most of mine. You can use it as part of your bio. You can use it when you're pitching yourself to other podcast hosts, or just interviews and in like your trailer. You can use your description in many different ways. So this is what the end product of what I'm going to give to you. And remember, throughout this whole podcasting mini course, we are not talking about any of the tech, about recording or how to set it up with the software or editing. We're not talking about any of that. This is strictly to get your podcasting foundation, your idea out, and to see what you need to create, and to have a description in the end so that you can have a solid plan and idea of your podcast and before moving forward. But if you're ready to take your podcast to the next step for your podcast, your story, you can join my program where we have one-on-one check-ins. I create your trailer for you, and I love this process. We are having a live program June 20th through July 1st. I would love to have you in there. And it's just a way for you to create your podcast going even further and deeper than we can here inside the podcasting mini course. So again, and let me all right, had to turn my phone on Do Not Disturb. So day 1, why do you want to create a podcast? So this is a question that we asked on Tuesday. All of the replays of each of the lives are up in the featured section of the Facebook group, so feel free to watch those so you have a deeper dive of going into the questions. But why do you want to create a podcast? This will keep you going when even the days you don't want to work on your podcast. And the second question is, who is your audience? Who are the people that you are talking to? What does that look like? Who do you imagine is listening to your podcast? That's what we covered on day 1. Day 2, we covered, what are you telling your audience? So are you telling them type of stories, different experience, personal experiences? Are you having guests on there? And then what does that look like? Is it just you as a host of your podcast? Is it just you having solo episodes, co-hosts? Are you having different guests on and off? And that is all okay to change as well. However way that you want to do your podcast, if you feel like this isn't working for you later, then you can change that as well. And then day 3, we talked about when are you releasing podcast episodes. So that is what we talked about yesterday. And just to look at how much time and capacity that you have with your podcast and how much time can you put out. So realistically, if you are a beginner with podcasting, and you will get faster at this as well, then I would say you can dedicate 1 hour per episode of podcast. And so if you want to release an episode once a month or even once a week, whatever that looks like, and you can change that format as well. So when you have all of these questions answered from day 1, 2, and 3, today we're going to cover your description of your podcast. So this is something that you would put all together from all the questions that you have. And if you're having trouble with any of the questions, comment on any of the videos, or you can comment down here as well while we build your description. So first and foremost, for your description, you need your who. So the people that you're talking about, we talked about that on day 1, your audience, who you're talking to and what you are telling them. So we talked about that on day 2. So who is your audience? So for instance, I will use my own podcast for example. So, what is formerly known as Project Podcast, which is the first season of now CE Own It. My audience for that podcast were women who were interested in podcasting that want to start and DIY their own podcast. And I'm telling the process of how to podcast, things that I learned, interviewing other people that have had a podcast and have built a business onto it as well, because the follow-up question of a lot of times that people creating podcasts was, how do I monetize? So that is the first season of CE Own It, and what it is now is I talk to women solopreneurs who want to build their business and add more revenue streams even while they're working a 9-to-5, even while they have children, because you want to have your business fit into your life, not your life fit into your business, and actually make time for your business instead of finding time. So it's a whole mindset shift as well. So just taking, again, your description of who is your audience, we cover that on day 1, and then what you are telling them. So the part of what you're telling them, you can say with your co-host, you can say just yourself. You can also include in there the different types of when. So when are you releasing podcast episodes? And if you don't know, that's totally fine as well. Just say that they will be released whatever, monthly, or you don't even have to put that in there at all. But stay tuned for more episodes. That one always works as well. But you want to incorporate this all into the description of your podcast, and it should be about 1 to 2 paragraphs. So breaking it down, like I would say on average 7 sentences is good. Talking about your audience, and then your 7 sentences telling more about your podcast. And you can be as detailed as you want. A pro thing that I would add in there is to put where you are on social media. And if you don't have a social media, I would highly suggest to think about starting one, just one, seeing which one that you like the most and where your audience is the most. Start there and just expand through that one. And if you we'll talk about this in the Your Podcast, Your Story about the podcast platforms and how that's your own podcasting website. And it's great for free with your own podcast. But again, we're not talking about the tech here. But when you're creating your description, you want to take everything from the past 3 days and put it all together to create your podcast description. And I would love to see your podcast description down in the comments. So that is pretty much it for all of day 4. And that is all of the podcasting mini course that I have for you. So thank you so much for joining me. And just going over a few reminders, I'm going to repeat the day's questions one more time and then go over the description one more time. But if you are interested in diving more into your podcast, taking you from idea to launch, I would love for you to join me inside of Your Podcast, Your Story. We are having a live round June 20th through July 1st. So it is linked down in the comments right now. You can see it says ready to take your podcast action from idea to launch. I would love to have you. There are one-on-one check-ins. There is a course behind it, but we're going to be doing this live as well. So I'll show up just like this and we'll have casual conversations talking about your podcast and guiding you through the process. And there are one-on-one check-ins, and I will create your podcast trailer for you. Honestly, that's my best part that I love to do, because I love to see like the final project and like present it to you, and you can see like your whole podcast. So if you would love to join the live round, it is linked down there in the comments, and we're going to go over the questions one more time. So day 1 was, why do you want to create a podcast and who are you talking to? Day 2 is, what are you telling your audience and how are you presenting that information with yourself or co-host guests? What does that look like? It's okay to change. And day 3, we were talking about when are you releasing podcast episodes, and then coming to day 4 today, putting it all together in your description, talking about who are you talking to for your podcast audience and what does that look like when are you releasing episodes, and that should be about 1 or 2 paragraphs or about 7 sentences. So thank you so much for joining me on this podcasting mini course. These videos will be linked up in the featured section up there. This pointing thing, I don't really know about this. But it will be linked up there in the featured section. And again, my name is Jakara Davis. Let me know if you have any questions about podcasting. Let me know if you have any questions about your podcast, your story. It does close on the weekend of June 16th. I believe it's like the 16th or the 17th. I have to look at it again. Thank you. I like my glasses as well. Hi. But it does close because we're just doing this for the summer, and then we're going to close down and then maybe open it again for the fall. So there is a time limit and there is limited space. So if you want to join, it is linked down there in the comments. And again, my name is Jakara Davis. Thank you so much for showing up for your podcast and yourself and for sharing your time with me. And you can follow all the replays up in the featured section as well. All right. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. And let me know if you have any questions. All right. Bye.